New email. We invite you to a fashion show celebrating all things 80s glam, but everything is thrifted. Bring your best thrift game. 80s glam thrift. Okay, back to our regular programming. It's been so long since we've done a tutorial. I'm so excited. Today is full of drama as we take two tops, give them some extra drama in the shoulders. All of this is sponsored by Valley Village. Thank you so much, Valley Village. I've got this white dress shirt. Has a very interesting left and right thing going on the front with the diamonds and the stripes. Let's get started on giving these plain shoulders some major action. We're going for this kind of inspiration, a nice puffy shoulder as well as a cinch at some point that can give it some cute balloon effect. A natural place to start when we're working on the shoulders is the sleeves. I'm going to cut these off left and right, following the seam as closely as possible with a pair of fabric scissors. Next up, taking a cropped top that I generally like the fit of, I tried to align the armpit seam to be at the same point and then measured where from the shoulders I could afford to drop down the shoulders. We want to take away whatever fabric we can from the armholes on the body and give to the sleeves so that the sleeves have enough volume to create the puff. So here I measured that I could afford to lose 2 centimeters up at the shoulders, and so I flipped the shirt inside out, pinned a 2 centimeter drop down from the collar all the way down to the end of the shoulder, and sewed that in with a straight stitch. Here you see how that turned out, an incline that goes up to 2 centimeters, and when you flip it on the outside, not too much visible change. Now that the shoulders have been brought down to make the armhole a bit smaller, the other thing we can do is to bring in the sides of the dress shirt, plus the fact that it was too big for me, so I got to bring it in anyways. I laid it flat, measured about 7 to 8 centimeters from both sides, and put in some pins as where I can sew a straight line to cut off the excess fabric on the sides. While I had the shirt flat, this was also a great time to cut off the bottom. I always give an extra 3 centimeters or so just to be safe, but I'm going as straight as possible across the bottom, and now it's a crop top length. Here's where we're at right now. I have slimmed the sides. Obviously these shoulders are not fitting me right, but I think you can always just plop the sleeve where you want it to be. And it's really that easy. Anytime the checkup goes well, that means I can cut off the excess fabric because I don't plan on going back and redoing that anymore. Thank goodness. Now, when it comes to the armhole, as you slim the sides, sometimes the front and the back gets a little misaligned. So here I'm just trimming it so that the armhole is one smooth circle again. I like to trim on one side, then take that piece, carefully align it on the other side, and use that as a guide to trim, hoping that this will result in some good symmetry. Okay, we have successfully shrunken the armhole of your dress shirt, and so now we're going to work on blowing your sleeves way out of proportion. The first thing I had to do was to remove the seams that were forming these little darts because I want this fabric to be as flat as possible. I'm grabbing that excess fabric that I cut off from the bottom of the shirt. Hopefully you did not throw it out because we're trying to use everything out here. Next, I'm folding the entire back in half so that I can produce 2 symmetrical pieces, and then I'm measuring the entire length of that inner sleeve seam and laying that down on this back piece that I folded. From there, I'm cutting off a back piece that is just a little bit shorter than that inner sleeve seam, and then I'm reshaping it so that it's kind of a funnel shape. Hopefully soon you will understand what we are trying to do here. Taking each sleeve, I carefully cut it open along that inner seam, just sticking again as close to the seam as possible. Then I'm opening it up and we're going to insert this funnel shape that you have created. So on one side of the seam, sewing it right sides together with the funnel, and then on the other side of the seam that you cut open, sewing it right sides together with the funnel, so that now the sleeve is basically the width of the original sleeve plus the whole funnel shape that you inserted to the sleeve. It does get a little bit tricky at the corner where it meets the cuff, but it's not going to be really noticeable because this is a part that's going to be all billowy and foldy, and all the ruffles are just going to hide any imperfections you have. It's going to be okay. So now we have created a sleeve that is way too big for the armhole. Therefore, the next step is to put some gathering into the top edge of the sleeve. With the sleeve, I sewed 2 parallel straight stitches along the entire curve of the sleeve minus the part where the funnel is. I'm going to put a link in the description to how to gather because I feel like I covered this in every single video and it does get very repetitive. Essentially, these 2 parallel stitches help you to gather the fabric. One hand is holding on to the 2 parallel threads, the other hand keeps smoothing the fabric, and it starts to all pucker up exactly like we want it to. So this area that's flat, that is the funnel that I inserted. I did not put any gathering on there. All the gathering, like I said, is happening where the original sleeve fabric was. Here is the sleeve with its poof and its volume. This also looks weirdly like I got in some strange artsy fight. I feel like this is like... I attached this sleeve to the body here, and as you can tell from this, if I literally follow this edge, it's going to hang way too far out and it doesn't look good. I like sewed it on, saw how it looked, undid part of it, and then just went like doot 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 doot. And now it's sitting at a way better spot. It kind of shortened the sleeve a bit, which was nice as well because now it's more of a crop length. The shortening happens because much of the volume went into going up here, crawling up the sleeve. Did that make sense? Hopefully. So all these pins are holding in the excess piece of fabric that I had cut off from the sleeve that I already finished. Remember earlier when I said I like to do 1/2, cut off the excess fabric, and then bring it over and use it as a stencil in hopes of maintaining symmetry? This is what's happening here. The reason I'm doing this is because once I've cut off the excess fabric, then I can just follow the edge of the fabric as my guide for how to shape the sleeve. Now that the armhole is cut to the right size, it's time to pin the sleeve in. To do this, I inserted the sleeve so that the right side of the sleeve is touching the right side of the shirt, but there is a little bit of inside out action that you may have to wrap your brain around. First, I pinned the bottom center of the funnel piece to the bottom of the armpit. This is in hopes of achieving symmetry as I move my way around the sleeve. Then I pinned the middle of the whole gathered area to the top shoulder seam. And after that, I just kind of smooth out all of the ruffles until the circumference of the sleeve matches the circumference of the armhole. So this is why this method of gathering is going to be most effective here, because it gives you room to readjust how gathered the fabric is as you're working so that you can get the measurement just right. Smooth out your gathers, pin it as you go, and eventually you will have matching circumferences that are ready to be sewn together. I did not know if this was going to work out, but we is symmetrical. All that's left is I gotta tackle the bottom and add a little flap, 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 flap. Let's keep going. So I'm taking some elastic and I'm sewing it into a loop shape so that it's a comfortable fit around my upper arm. Don't make it too tight and make your circulation hard on yourself. Be kind to your upper arm. Once those loops were done, I slid it onto the sleeve, making sure the sleeve is inside out. Don't make that mistake. And then pinned it to the sleeve at relatively equal distances around. I mean, this part actually got really hard, but I did my best to pin it equally all the way around. We are aiming for upper arm above the elbow, and if you're happy with the position of the elastic, go ahead and do a zigzag stitch all the way around. Finally, the bottom of my shirt is still a total raw edge, and now that I've tried it on so many times, I know exactly where I want it to end for this crop top fit. So I went ahead and cut across, losing that last little button, and then just did a basic fold over hem all the way around. I fold in the fabric once, do a straight stitch, and finito. Personally, I thought this crop would look a lot cuter if it was a bit more fitted. I put on the shirt and I measured how far apart the 2 side seams were around my back, and we were roughly at 29 centimeters. So I cut a piece of wide, very comfortable elastic down to 29 centimeters, and we're going to sew this across the back. First, I gave it a zigzag stitch to the 2 side seams just because it's not going to show up on the other side since it's on the raw seams, and it helps me to make sure the placement is perfect. Next, we're going to tug on that to help it lay flat, put it through the machine with 1 zigzag stitch, and that will help lock it to the entire back side of the shirt. And here is the before. Don't forget this plain little dress shirt. And this is how it looks now. It's done. I added a little closure up here to close it off. And this is how the elastic looks in the back. I'm ready to fight pirates and impressionist painters and Harlequin novel seducers. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Some parts, obviously, I moved through it really fast just so I could make sure I gave you the details on how to do this shoulder thing. This was intended to be like all cute and fashionable, but from the comments I can tell some people watch my videos to like learn how to cosplay or whatever. So if that's why you're here, I wish you the best in making the biggest, baddest, puffiest sleeves you can. The puffed sleeves is just one easy way to give an outfit some extra shoulder action, but I didn't want to just show you one. I'm going to show you two. So we're about to jump into the next one. I look like I'm auditioning for Aladdin. Here we have the before. Because I knew I needed more fabric to add flavor to the shoulders, I went for something as dress-like as possible so that I would have the extra fabric to work with. Now, in this original inspiration photo from Ultimate 80s Glam TV show Dynasty, I noticed that one of the things that helps the shoulders to look great is also that her fabric has some great shine to it. So if you're going to do this one, I do advise looking for fabric that has a little bit of iridescence, shine, sparkle, because when you put ruffles in fabric that catches light, it looks extra magical. Coming in at a wonderful little $11.99 price tag, we're going to get started on this caftan. I'm not too crazy about this neckline, so to start, I'm going to flip it inside out and put it on. Since I anticipate that I might make the back drop lower than the front, I'm going to do this backwards. I added pins to mark the places where I need the neckline to come straight down on the two sides, straight across in the front. When I take it off, I can cut out the new neckline. Do what you can to add pins, use measuring tape, just make it nice and clear. But what we're going for is to sew a square shape straight on the two sides and straight across the bottom. After that, however, I did get a little scared and confused as to what the heck I was doing. I went to the sleeves and, like the white dress shirt, I cut off the two sleeves so that we could get this whole area ready to be transformed. Okay, she's back and braver than ever. I've decided what is going on with this neck hole. This is what is going to become the front. I sewed this rectangular shape and I was happy with its placement, so I went ahead and cut off all the excess fabric. Flipping it over to the back side, this white chalk shows you the general shape that I was aiming for on the back. I sewed all of those down with a straight stitch and then cut off the excess fabric. This obviously is a good time to try it on. This is the neckline I was aiming for. I was super scared, but it's working. Oh, and also this is where I discovered that it had pockets, so I felt like I had to mourn that a little because I didn't know you had pockets, but now you're going to get cut off. Sorry. Seeing this red shirt is a telltale sign that we are about to cut off the bottom excess so that we can turn this into a crop top. With this excess fabric at the bottom, we are going to do a couple of things. First, I'm going to get rid of all the lining because I do not need that. Next, I'm going to take these two layers that I have prepared and we're going to fold it in half and cut it so that now we have 4 layers in total. The bottom two were conveniently already rounded because the bottom of this caftan was rounded, and with those top 2 layers, because they're more rectangular, I did give them a trim to give them a more rounded shape. This also meant I needed to hem those top 2 layers because I just cut out a raw edge of the fabric. So I did that by folding in the edge once, doing a straight stitch all the way around, then folding it in one more time and doing another straight stitch. This is something I do often when I'm working with lighter fabrics because it helps you to get a really, really tiny and tight little hem. These pieces we've created are going to be the flounces that go on the shoulders, so we need to put a little gathering in them to get some good ruffle action. Again, I'm back with the 2 parallel straight stitches that are going to help me to gather the fabric, and check the link in the description if you want a full explanation on how to gather. What I decided to do with these 4 pieces I created is 2 on each shoulder. Their starting and ending point I kept the same, but up at the top you can see that I put in about 1 inch, 3 centimeters-ish of difference so that there's enough stagger that you can really see the 2 layers and they look like nice and pretty flower petals. I pinned each of those to the shoulder at the top, do the bottom one and then do the top one. And if you want to make it look extra fluffy, you should sew it so that these sleeves are pointing away from the armhole, and that way they fold over to flop down, which gives them a little bit more volume. If that did not make sense to you, leave a message in the comments and I will reply with a better worded description. And now what to do with cinching the body? Ba-bam! We are going to add some elastic. First, I did a zigzag stitch with elastic all around the entire neck hole, so the front, the back, and the two shoulders. Without this, the top can be prone to sliding around or falling off your shoulders. This elastic will help everything to fit nice and snug around your neck hole. For the body, I cut 5 pieces of elastic that were a comfortable fit around me, and I sewed them into 5 separate loops. Each of those I slid onto the body about 2 to 3 centimeters apart from each other, and I did a zigzag stitch all the way around to lock it in place. There's a couple more finishing touches, but before we get to that, let's take one more look at the before and the after. There is drama, there is floof, there is a cute little scrunchy effect going on around the body. Some of my seams are not perfect. Please don't come for me. I wish they were a little straighter and neater, but you get the idea. From the tutorial standpoint, I think you have everything you need, and you're just gonna look like such a pretty flower out in the wilderness. It's gonna be great. Please do give this a try. To wrap up the top opening, I folded over the edge once more and did a straight stitch all the way around. That way it looks nice and clean from the outside and it hides that zigzag stitch that held the elastic in place. On the body, all of those elastics were sewn in a circle using a zigzag stitch. And on the bottom, I finished that off with just a simple fold over. Lastly, there was a little bit of extra fabric at the armhole, which makes sense because the original piece was a bit big on me. So I pinched all the excess fabric and sewed it away into a little dart, which I think ended up being pretty neat. I hope this inspires you to thrift a little bit more because there's so many things just waiting for you to discover them at the thrift store. I want to thank Value Village for sponsoring this video and giving us a great reason to shop, as well as a great theme. I went with this 80s glam theme because that is the style vibe that Value Village presented to us. Basically, they took us to a fashion show that was completely styled by Canadian stylist Carrie Tobin. He picked 100% Value Village items, and through that I was just like transported to the world of 80s and big shoulders and like fun prints. And at the show, even the dress I was wearing, that white bag, they were all thrifted from Value Village. I felt like it had this princess kind of look, but not Disney princess, more like how actual royalty in real life seem to dress whenever they have their downtime. If you want to see more photos of these finished outfits, you can find them on Instagram. It's @WITHWENDY. As well, if you do end up giving yourself a little shoulder lift, you can tag me on Instagram using #MadeWithWendy so I can find it, I can like it, I can give you my love for doing it. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and if you're subscribed, then I'll see you next week. Bye-bye!